All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a journey through some of history's most unbelievable scams. We're talking Enron, FTX, and everything in between. And what we're going to find is a pattern, a playbook really, that connects all of them, showing us how the oldest tricks in the book just keep finding new victims.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The tools people use for deception, well, they're always changing, always getting more sophisticated. They have to. But the core human stuff, greed, hype, and betraying someone's trust, that's as old as money itself. So yeah, the playground might look different, but the game is often exactly the same.
And this right here really puts it into perspective. On one hand, you've got something super simple, totally physical, like shaving a tiny bit of gold off a coin. On the other, you have the collapse of a digital exchange worth billions. I mean, the scale and the tech are just worlds apart, right? But at their heart, they're both about the exact same thing, promising value that simply isn't there.
So, if these scams all share the same core idea, does that mean there's some kind of blueprint? Well, it turns out there absolutely is. Most of these massive frauds, it doesn't matter if they happened last year or 300 years ago, they follow a surprisingly predictable three-step pattern. Let's break that down.
Here it is. This is the blueprint of deceit. Step 1. It always starts with a grand promise, some revolutionary idea that sounds too good to be true, promising you the world. Step 2 is exploit trust. You use that big promise to take advantage of hype and weak rules to hide what's really going on. And then step 3, because the whole thing is built on a lie, the inevitable collapse. The truth comes out and it all comes crashing down. Keep this pattern in your head, because we're going to see it pop up again and again.
Okay, so let's put our playbook to the test. We'll start in the corporate world, where some of the biggest scandals in history were hidden in plain sight, just buried under piles of paperwork and public trust. And our first case file is Enron.
This is wild. Enron basically weaponized financial jargon. Their grand promise was this new, innovative business model for the 21st century. And to sell that promise, they used this thing called mark-to-market accounting. It sounds complicated, but all it really let them do was pretend they were making billions of dollars on deals that hadn't even happened yet. It was all just phantom profits designed to hide some very, very real debt.
And here comes step 3, the collapse. Enron stock went from over $90 a share all the way down to less than $1. And you have to remember, this isn't just a number on a chart. For thousands of employees, this was their retirement, their life savings. And it was just gone, practically overnight.
Next up, let's talk about Bernie Madoff. His grand promise wasn't some complex new technology. It was actually something way more attractive: safety, consistency. He built this legendary reputation as a Wall Street genius you could trust, which of course was the perfect cover. In reality, a giant Ponzi scheme. He was just paying off old investors with money from new ones. And the scale of that collapse, a staggering $50 billion.
And, this playbook isn't just for financial schemes. Take Volkswagen back in 2015. Their grand promise was clean diesel, this amazing engineering breakthrough. And they totally exploited the public's trust in their brand and in this new green tech. The collapse came when the world found out they were literally cheating on emissions tests. That deception cost them over $30 billion and just shattered their reputation.
Okay, now let's jump to our era, where this same old playbook gets supercharged by technology. The excitement, the hype around innovation, it can create these huge blind spots. And that makes it the perfect stage for some very old tricks.
And that brings us to Theranos. The brand promise was incredible, right? A whole lab of blood tests from a single drop of blood. It sounded like science fiction, and it attracted massive investors and glowing media coverage. The only problem, the tech never actually worked. It's such a stark reminder of how a good story can sometimes be way more powerful than the truth, and it led everyone from patients to billionaires down a very dangerous road.
And finally, that brings us to the world of crypto and to FTX. At its absolute peak, the company was valued at this insane number, $32 billion. The grand promise here was bigger than ever. They were going to be the safe, trusted gateway to the future of finance. In an industry known for being the Wild West, they were supposed to be the new sheriff in town.
But just look at how fast it all fell apart. It took just 9 days. First, some reports came out about their shady finances. Then a competitor started selling off their tokens, which caused a panic. Then they froze customer withdrawals. And by day 9, the whole company was filing for bankruptcy. A $32 billion empire just vanished. A total textbook case of hype, trust, and weak oversight.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? What's the lesson here? Well, it turns out whether you're talking about shipping companies in the 1700s or crypto exchanges today, the answer has always been the same.
And to prove just how timeless this is, think about the South Sea bubble way back in the 18th century. The promise of unimaginable riches from trade set off this massive speculative craze that, of course, eventually collapsed and wiped out fortunes. And one of its most famous victims? Sir Isaac Newton. I mean, if one of the smartest people in all of human history can fall for the hype, believe me, anyone can. And what that means is that our best defenses haven't really changed either. It doesn't matter if it's 1720 or 2024, the things that protect us from fraud are still strong governance, transparent reporting, ethical leaders, and just a healthy dose of skepticism. These are the boring but absolutely essential tools we have to fight back against the exciting promises of a scam.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Scams are always going to get smarter, always going to ride the wave of the next big thing. The real question is, are we learning the lessons from the past fast enough to keep up? Because as we've seen today, the playbook almost never changes.